He had 2 jobs, 1 daughter, and 0 time for love, until one dare changed everything.
She ran a billion-dollar company, but she'd never once let anyone run her heart.
One dare. One dare. One text. One decision he almost didn't make.
For 1 hour, the CEO forgot her empire, and the single dad forgot his fear.
But love doesn't care about boardrooms or bedtime stories. It only cares if you're brave enough to stay.
Daniel Reyes had exactly 14 minutes to get his daughter to school, drop off a delivery, and still make it to his second job by 9. If you'd told him 3 months ago that a $50 bet with his best friend would turn his entire life upside down, he would have laughed in your face. The same tired laugh he gave every morning as he shoved a granola bar into his 6-year-old's hands and sprinted out the door. But that's exactly what happened. And if this story makes you feel even a fraction of what it made him feel, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe, because trust me, you don't want to miss where this goes. Daniel was 36 years old, a single father raising his daughter Mia alone since his wife passed away 2 years earlier from a sudden illness that took her far too soon. He worked as a maintenance technician during the day and drove for a delivery app at night, stitching together just enough income to keep their small apartment, keep Mia in her after-school program, and keep the lights on. He hadn't been on a date since Mia was born. Love, romance, adult conversation that didn't involve juice boxes or bedtime negotiations, all of it had quietly disappeared from his life, replaced by the relentless, exhausting rhythm of survival. His best friend Marcus, a bartender at a downtown pub who'd known Daniel since college, worried about him constantly. "You're gonna burn out, man," Marcus told him one night as Daniel nursed a single beer he could barely afford to buy. "You need something for you, not for Mia, not for work. For you," said Daniel waved him off the way he always did. But Marcus wasn't giving up that easily. A regular at his bar was Alexandra Cole, everyone just called her Alex, the CEO of a mid-sized tech firm that had recently gone public. She came in maybe twice a month, always alone, always ordering the same glass of red wine, always leaving within the hour. Marcus had served her enough times to know 2 things. She was brilliant and successful, and she was profoundly lonely, though she'd never admit it. "I dare you," Marcus said one evening, sliding his phone across the bar with Alex's Instagram pulled up. Her company had tagged her in a charity gala photo. "Message her, ask her to coffee, $50 says you won't." Daniel almost said no. He had every reason to. He didn't have time. He didn't have money for fancy coffee shops. He didn't belong in the same universe as a woman who wore designer blazers and closed multi-million-dollar deals before lunch. But something about the exhaustion in his own chest, the ache of being invisible to the world, of existing only as a father and a worker and nothing else, made him type the message before he could stop himself. "Hi, this is going to sound strange, but a friend dared me to ask you to coffee. No pressure at all if you say no." He didn't expect a reply, certainly not within the hour. But Alex, sitting alone in her penthouse after another draining board meeting, stared at the message for a long time. She was used to men wanting things from her money, her connections, her name attached to their business card. She wasn't used to honesty. She wasn't used to someone admitting they were nervous. Against every instinct her assistant would have told her to follow, she typed back, "That's the most honest pickup line I've heard in years. Coffee sounds nice. Saturday?" Their first meeting was awkward in the way only 2 people who'd forgotten how to be vulnerable could manage. Daniel showed up in the nicest shirt he owned, which still had a small ink stain near the cuff. Alex showed up without her assistant, without her security, in jeans, something none of her employees had seen in years. They talked for 2 hours. Daniel told her about Mia, about his wife, about the guilt he carried for not being enough some days. Alex told him about growing up poor in a mill town, about clawing her way through business school on loans and grit, about how success had cost her every relationship she'd ever tried to build because no man could handle being with someone more successful than him. By the end of that first coffee, something had shifted in both of them, though neither wanted to name it yet. They kept meeting, quiet dinners after Mia went to bed, video calls during Alex's rare breaks between meetings, long walks in the park where Alex, for the first time in years, left her phone in her bag and simply listened to Daniel describe the small, ordinary miracles of raising a child, the way Mia insisted on singing before every meal, the way she drew pictures of mommy in the clouds and taped them above her bed. Alex found herself crying during one of these conversations, not from sadness, but from a strange, aching envy. Envy of a love so simple and so real when her entire life had been built on complexity and performance. But the world doesn't let 2 people from different universes fall in love without a fight. Alex's board of directors, preparing for a critical merger, began pressuring her to maintain a spotless, distraction-free public image. A gossip blog caught a photo of her and Daniel walking together, captioned with cruel speculation, "Is CEO Alex Cole slumming it with a blue-collar boyfriend?" The board called an emergency meeting. Her chief investor, an old-school businessman named Richard Voss, told her bluntly that her personal life was becoming a liability ahead of the merger vote. At the same time, Daniel's own fears crept back in stronger than ever. He watched Alex's photo splashed across a business magazine, standing beside senators and tech billionaires at a gala, and he felt smaller than he ever had. What did he have to offer a woman like that? A cramped two-bedroom apartment? A minivan with 140,000 miles on it? A daughter who needed a father present, not one distracted by a relationship destined to fail the moment reality set in? The breaking point came on a Friday night. Alex had promised to come to Mia's school recital, her first real appearance in Daniel's daily dad world, the world he'd protected so fiercely. But an emergency call came in from Richard Voss 20 minutes before the recital. The merger was in jeopardy, and the board needed her on a call immediately. No exceptions. Alex sat in her car outside the school, staring at the entrance where she could see Daniel walking in with Mia's hand in his, and she made the call. She missed the recital. When Daniel found out why, that Alex had chosen the merger over Mia's first performance, something in him hardened. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse her. He simply grew quiet, the same protective quiet he'd used to shield Mia and himself from grief before. When Alex tried to explain, tried to apologize, tried to say she'd make it up to Mia, Daniel told her gently but firmly that he understood, he really did, but that he needed someone who chose them, not someone who chose them when it was convenient. For 3 weeks, they didn't speak. Alex closed the merger. It was, by every professional measure, the greatest success of her career, a deal worth hundreds of millions, one that secured her company's future for a decade. Her board celebrated her. Richard Voss shook her hand and called her the sharpest CEO in the industry. And she felt absolutely nothing. She sat alone in her penthouse that night, staring at the city lights, and realized that for the first time in her adult life, success felt hollow. She thought of Mia's crayon drawings. She thought of Daniel's tired, honest smile. She thought about the fact that she had built an empire and had no one to share it with, because she kept choosing the empire over the people who mattered. The next morning, Alex did something she had never done in her career. She delegated. She handed the reins of the next quarter's operations to her trusted vice president, blocked out 2 full weeks on her calendar, an act that sent her assistant into a mild panic, and drove, alone, without security, to Daniel's apartment complex. She found him in the small courtyard, helping Mia ride a bicycle without training wheels for the first time. Alex stood at a distance and watched unnoticed as Daniel ran alongside his daughter, cheering her on, catching her when she wobbled. It was the most beautiful thing Alex had ever seen, and it broke something open in her chest that she'd kept locked for 34 years. When Daniel finally noticed her, he froze. Alex walked over slowly, and for the first time since they'd met, she looked genuinely afraid. Not of a boardroom, not of a hostile takeover, but of losing something real. "I missed the recital," she said. "And I've spent 3 weeks telling myself I'd make it up to you both with a bigger gesture, a fancier apology. But that's not what you need from me. You need me to actually show up. So I'm here. Not for an hour, not between meetings. I took 2 weeks off, Daniel. I don't know how to do that. I've never done that in my whole career. But I want to learn how to be someone you can actually count on." Daniel didn't answer right away. Mia, sensing something important was happening, rolled her bike over and looked up at Alex with the fearless curiosity only a child has. "Are you the coffee lady my dad talks about?" she asked. Alex knelt down to Mia's eye level, her composed CEO exterior fully gone, replaced by something rawer and more honest. "I am, and I'm really sorry I missed your recital. Would it be okay if I came to the next one?" Mia considered this with the seriousness only a 6-year-old can muster, then nodded. "Okay, but you have to clap really loud." Alex laughed, a real laugh, tears in her eyes, and promised she would. Daniel watched the exchange, feeling the wall he'd built over the past 3 weeks crack, then crumble entirely. He stepped closer to Alex. "This isn't going to be easy," he said. "My life is chaos. Juice boxes and 6 a.m. wake-ups, and a kid who needs stability more than anything." "I don't want easy," Alex said. "I've had easy. Easy as a corner office and a calendar full of meetings and nobody waiting for me at home. I want this, I want you, I want her, if you'll let me." 6 months later, Alex had restructured her entire executive team, hiring a strong COO to take over day-to-day operations so she could actually be present, not just for Daniel and Mia, but for herself, for the life she'd been missing without realizing it. She still ran her company, still closed major deals, still commanded boardrooms with the same sharp confidence. But she left her phone in the car during dinners now. She showed up to every recital after that first missed one, clapping louder than anyone in the room, exactly as Mia had demanded. Daniel, for his part, learned that letting someone in didn't make him weak. It made the weight of his life lighter to carry. He quit his second job once their combined stability allowed it, spending the extra hours not on luxury, but on something far more valuable: time. Time with Mia. Time with Alex. Time to simply exist without the constant hum of exhaustion. Marcus, of course, never let either of them live down the fact that it all started with a $50 dare. At their wedding a year later, a small warm gathering in the same park where they'd once walked and almost touched hands, Marcus stood up during the toasts and raised his glass. "I made $50 off this relationship," he said, grinning, "and I'd pay 1,000 more to see it happen again." The room laughed, but Daniel, watching Alex laugh beside him, Mia clutching a fistful of her mother figure's wedding dress, knew the truth. No dare, no dollar amount, no boardroom deal could measure what they'd actually found. They'd found each other, two people who'd spent years surviving instead of living, who'd finally chosen, again and again, to show up. And that, more than any merger or any milestone, was the real success story. If this story moved you even a little, remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't chasing more. It's choosing to show up for the people who matter, especially when it's inconvenient. Thank you for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next story.